Okay, so again, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Shauna Oyen, and I graduated from the Master Gardener class here in North Mason, or Mason County. I live in North Mason. Back in 2016, here's a list of some of the stuff I've been doing for the past 22 years. So I've had my own farm for quite a while. We decided to retire it last fall. Lots of good reasons, but it was great. We had dairy goats and poultry and did farmers market, sold eggs and made cheese and all that awesome stuff. During COVID, when everything was shut down, it was really boring because you couldn't go anywhere. So I went back to school and I got my Sustainable Agriculture and Organic Food System certificate and a lot of other things, lots of volunteer work, and the ride's been awesome. But I would say the thing that I'm definitely most proud of is my family. We got 4 kids, 2 grandkids, been married for 22 years. And this is a picture of my granddaughter, Annie, last summer in the garden. Her and I went out there. We collected some butter chard to go with dinner that we grow in our organic garden. And you can see that the leaf is only like a third of a leaf, because if I had given her the whole thing, it would have been bigger than her. So I'm here to tell you that starting your own seeds is easy. It's very simple. Just as Erica mentioned, there's some tools that will help you be a lot more successful. And over the years, I've figured those out. So I'm just going to share those with you so that you can start seeds and have giant butter chard, like the size of a 2-year-old. So, okay, there we go. So since my home, my family is what I'm most familiar with, that's my favorite place to be. The illustration we're going to use today is starting your seed starting home. So what we're going to go over are the foundations. Erica did a great job on soil, and just like the soil in your garden, the soil for starting seeds, that's the base. That is the most important aspect right there. So we're going to talk about soil and containers. We're going to talk about warmth and light, the heat, the BTUs, and PAR lighting. We'll get into what that is. Water and air, everything needs it. And at the very end, I'll give you some additional tips that I've picked up over the years. And if you want to, at the end, I think they can print it out or find it online. It's a resource page of books and authors that I absolutely love. So before I start any kind of endeavor, I want to ask myself, why do I even want to do this? Why do I want to start seeds? Having a why, as turns and rabbit trails and challenges come, because they always do, having that why ensures that you're going to be a lot more successful, that you're going to stay on track. You might kind of veer this way and that way, but you're still going to go in that direction. So I want you guys to think about, what is your why? Why do you want to start seeds? So maybe you want to just add to your garden skills, new skill. You want to go on a gardening adventure, because starting seeds can be an adventure, and it can become very obsessive. Like you want every kind of kale that there is, every kind of tomato that there is, and see if you can do it just as a challenge. I know that's how I am anyway. Maybe you want to feed your community. You see that there's definitely a need for healthy organic vegetables or just healthy food in general, and you want to share that with your friends, your neighbors, your family. That's great. Starting your own seeds is going to help supplement your food budget. It definitely has for me. So when I first got into gardening a long time ago, I was raised with a garden. My dad's here today, and he had an amazing garden, and that trickled down affected to me. And when I had my kids, I found out what was in food. And I don't want to feed that to my babies. And so I went down to the grocery store and I was like, I'm going to buy organic food for 6 people on a single income. No. So I needed a workaround. And that workaround for me was to start my own and grow it myself. And maybe your why is you just want better looking tomatoes than your neighbor who never stops talking about it. If that's your why, no judgment, own it, do it, stick to it, and have better looking tomatoes than anyone on your hill. But if it's Corleone, no, be careful. So now that you have your why, my next question was, okay, what do I grow? When do I start it? When do I water it? How do I do this? I started getting overwhelmed really quickly. And I was like, I don't even know if I want to do this. But I'm here to tell you, it doesn't have to be confusing. We're going to make it simple. We're going to simplify it. So instead of focusing on what I didn't know, I want to focus on what do we know. We know that plants need stability and support, somewhere to put down their roots. It's number one. The next thing they need is sunshine and warmth. They need heat and they need light. We'll get into the details of how to give you those tools to make it more successful. They also need fresh water and air. And if you see this list, this is pretty much what people need. People and plants really aren't that different. So if you've never started seeds before, just think, is this something I would need? It's probably what your plants need. Because I would not thrive in a dark garage with no light, water, or air. I just wouldn't. And I've tried to grow seeds that way. Guess what? It didn't work. So putting them in the right place with the right tools is going to help them get off to a good start. So let's talk about the foundation of soil. So I'm going to go at a pretty fast clip, so lots of information, and I'll try to take questions at the end. So soil, definitely where to start. So I'm not going to go on to the details like Erica did. If you have detailed questions, she's awesome, great resource, talk to her. But the basics of it, for seed starting, you're going to use that same diagram sheeted. It needs air, it needs water, minerals, and organic matter. The water for starting seeds, it needs to be able to retain water, have aeration at the roots, and it needs to give nutrition to those baby starts. So I found this recipe almost 2 decades ago through Seattle Tilth, and this has worked great. I've tried lots of different ones, so if you're taking notes, this is a great time. Write this down. This has worked for me. I've tried other ones, but I keep going back to this one. This is what I stick with now. So you're going to take 4 parts peat moss or coconut coir, but coconuts are not in abundance in the Pacific Northwest, so I use peat moss. 2 parts compost, specifically fish compost. I have done experiments using all different kinds of compost. They all will work, but fish compost, any brand, whichever kind, but just fish compost specifically gives me the best results. 1 part perlite and 1 part vermiculite. And what these are going to do is going to give you that aeration, it's going to retain water, it's going to give nutrition. As long as it does those things, it's going to be a good soil to start your seeds in. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back, is if I have a small gardening day, a small planting day, I have a 1-gallon bucket that I use for my parts. If I have a big seed starting day, I have a 5-gallon bucket I use for my parts. So what I do is I get all my stuff together, my wheelbarrow, put all my parts in my wheelbarrow, and I mix it up. I integrate it all really, really well, so you can't, everything's just one big bundle in there. Take my garden hose and I water it all down. Just like Erica said, you want to have moisture in there, gotta have water in that soil to germinate those seeds, but you don't want it soggy. So you want it, basically the moisture content or texture, like a wrung out kitchen sponge. That's what you're looking for. Once you hit that, then you're going to go to your containers. So containers, this can be pretty much anything. So just like Erica said, those 12 inches, you want about a 10 to 20% of that depth. So for starting seeds, you want 1 to 2 inches. Good container will be at least 1 to 2 inches deep. I go on the 2-inch side. Needs to be able to hold soil, but it also needs to be able to drain water. So I frequent coffee shops like every day. I even work in one. And instead of just tossing those cups, bring them home. Poke holes in the bottom. You've got a perfectly good container. It's also something you've already paid for. So if starting seeds is new to you, when I started, I used everything from clamshells that, your Thanksgiving pies come in from Costco, poke holes in those, plastic cups, paper cups. As long as it hits these 3 requirements, it'll make a good one. Now, you can also go professional. You can get, cell trays, really does do better on space. You can get more and less space, but if this is new, don't waste those resources. Try it out, see if you like it, and you don't need to have fancy stuff to be successful. So there's our foundation. So now the supports for starting seeds are going to be warmth and light. So we're going to talk about heat first. So most all garden veggies are going to fall into one of 2 categories. We've got cool season crops and we've got warm season crops. The difference is the temperature in which they germinate at, where they grow, where they thrive, where they're harvested. So your cool season crops are going to germinate best at 55 to 70 degrees. These are your spring and fall crops. Think about broccoli, kale, asparagus. And in general, they're going to be cool on the color scale too. They're going to be your silvery blues, silvery greens, light blues, light greens, a lot of the green leafy growth, cilantro. These, think about that. Cool temperature, cool color. They're also going to use cool light. We're going to get into that. So when do you start cool season crops? Well, if I wanted to start kale, everything you need to know about starting seeds is usually going to be right on the back of the envelope that you buy those seeds from. So it says right here, start indoors 8 weeks before last frost. It says our last frost is the end of April. Everyone knows it can happen in June still. But our hard frosts usually are done by the end of April. So you count back 8 weeks and that's now. So now would be a really good time to start kale indoors. Maturity date on here is the 65 days. They're very optimistic. So give or take that little grain of salt, but I take that as about 65 days from the time I put it out in my garden. That seems to be about right on. So now we're going to go to warm season crops. So our warm season crops, obviously you're going to need warmer temperatures to germinate, grow, thrive, harvest. These are your summer crops. So think about warm temperature, warm colors. You're going to have yellows, oranges, reds. You're thinking corn, pumpkin, tomatoes, peppers. So they're going to need warm light to set flower and fruit. But their beginning initial growth, which is what we're focused on in starting seeds, is going to need that cool light. So if we wanted to start tomatoes, this also says start 6 to 8 weeks before the last frost. That's about the same time you're going to start your cool season crops. That kind of confused me at first. I was like, well, why would I do that at the same time? It's because they take longer. So they're going to need that longer maturity time later into the summer. So that takes us into light. So you heard me mention cool light and warm light. So you think back to high school, right? Science class in high school. Plants and people aren't that different, right? The needs that we have are really similar. So PAR light, photosynthetic active radiation. This is the range of light that our eyes can see. It's about 400 to 735 nanometers. And this is also the range of light that plants use to fuel photosynthesis to grow. Okay, so this is what we're going to focus on. This is going to be important when you're starting your seeds. Now, this is not a measurement of light, it's a quality of light. Okay, so this is in the color spectrum. So you can think about it kind of like, okay, so the light that comes down from your light source going down and hitting your plants, those little droplets of light, we're going to call those photons, okay? And you can think of photons as calories for plants. Just like we burn energy delivered from food, right? The energy, calories we get from food. If I were to eat an entire bag of jalapeno potato chips versus an organic Cobb salad, I'm going to get very different calories and I'm going to get a very different kind of energy. So when plants have blue light and red light, they're going to get different kinds of calories and different kinds of energy that are going to fuel different functions in that plant, just like food does for us. So blue light is high energy, short wavelength. It's going to give lots of calories to those plants. Red light is a low energy, long wavelength, and they don't need as much because it's a lot more efficient at fueling photosynthesis because they've already grown all their green growth. So they have their green leafies to do the photosynthesis job. So the high energy, the short wavelength blue, growing cool plants, cool season. Are any of you hikers? You guys like to hike? Okay. Think about your favorite place to hike. Just get that in your mind. And you're hiking there at the end of March, beginning of April. And the sun, actually a sunny day like today, and you get to stay out all day and the sun starts going down. What color is that sunset? You're going to see pastel blues and light pinks. You're going to see a lot of cool colors in the sky as the sun's going down. Now fast forward to August, September. You're hiking in that same place. What color is the sunset? It's vibrant yellows, reds, oranges, because the light has changed over the season. Now think about, what do you see growing? In the snow, you've got snowdrops and crocus, and you've got these light greens pushing through the snow. All the shadows are cool shadow colors, they're blues, okay? Later in the season, you've got your bright red flowers, and you see hummingbirds. And so how does that translate to starting seeds? So the more light photons that hit the leaf, the more energy is going to be captured for faster growth. So we're going to focus on cool light for starting seeds because, again, remember that gives more calories to those plants and it's going to help them grow their green leafy growth, and they need that to photosynthesize. So on the left, there's a picture here of this is kind of how I have my setup for starting seeds. Some of my plants actually touch those lights. I use fluorescent cool lighting, and I'm gonna get tons of green leafy growth. Now I did a test and I left my plants in there too long, changed the lighting up to a warmer light, and guess what happened? My little tiny pepper plants started making flowers because red light signals to a plant to start setting flowers and fruit. And we don't want that yet. We want to wait till later in the season. We just want to start those seeds, get them really robust and healthy and thick and strong. You also want that light source as close as you can get. These are our photons coming down from our energy source, hitting that leaf. We want them concentrated. We want them as many as we can get because that's calories for our plants. Now, the further you get away from your plant, if you were to lift your light up here and your start is down here, that light's still sending out the same amount of photons. It's not changed, but then it's spread by the time it hits your plant. So you're not going to get as much energy on that leaf. So you want it to look more like this, the one on the left. You want it as close as you can get for healthy growth. The one on the right, I've seen so many of these for sale from big box stores and online. This is going to produce a long, skinny, weak plant because it's reaching for as much calories as it can get from the light, and it's simply too far away. So you can start your plants in a sunny windowsill. You can do that, but we're here today to give you guys tools to make you more successful at these topics that we're talking about. So if you can get your light source as close to those plants as possible, you're gonna have much healthier, stronger plants. So pattern at the top, desirable pattern for photons hitting those plants. And this is just some sciencey stuff. So I thought, oh, if I just buy one light and I put it up here, then I can put 3 trays under this, right? I got lanky plants. So I just bought more lights. So I was like, okay, if I put it up here versus right here, I'll get half as much light. No, you actually get 1/4 of the light. So it's called the inverse square law of light. And you can look that up, go into more detail on sciencey, but the basic of it is we want the top one, not the bottom one. And we get that with our light as close to the plants as possible. So we're just gonna go on now to water and air. It's very easy. Everything needs water. Plants, just like people, need water. So I have 2 daughters and 2 sons, but I have one daughter that loves the crisp Seattle weather and the rain, and I have one that will probably end up living in Florida. One loves the sun and one likes the water. And so plants are no different, okay? But at the base, all plants need water, especially to germinate. It doesn't matter if they're warm or cool season, it doesn't matter if they're high or low temperatures, everything needs water. So once you've got your soil made, you've got it pre-moistened, got it in your containers, and then I sow my seeds, only one time do I top water. I'm gonna top water, get it all wet, soak it in, but then I'm going to put all my starters in a tray, and I'm gonna fill that tray up with about 2 inches of water, okay? And what's gonna happen is capillary action is gonna pull that water up from the bottom. It's also gonna come down from the top. An hour later, so I just leave it there. Walk away for an hour, come back an hour later, and if all the water is soaked up out of the bottom of the tray, then I know that soil needs more water. So I'm gonna put more water in, do it again, come back. And once it's not sucking up any more water, I'm gonna pour that water off, and pick up my trays, I'm gonna go put them under my lights. And they're gonna germinate in usually just a few days. From that point on, I don't top water anymore in my seed starting area. That's gonna cut down on fungal issues, bacteria, diseases, because we want the soil to be moist, but we don't want water just sitting around in there because it's just gonna invite unwanted things. So bottom water once they're sown. Airflow in your soil, in your seed starting area. This was a big one that I left out for years. I just got a few battery powered fans now. Put one on the bottom, one on the top, and then I have an oscillating one that I can move to the different levels. And what this does is it's going to prevent condensation from sitting on leaves, sitting in the top of your soil, sitting around in there. It's going to create stronger plants because it's going to mimic your wind when they transplant out. Because if you've never been outside before and a blast of wind comes, it's just going to knock that plant over. But if you give them a little bit of airflow as they're growing, they're going to be able to strengthen up. So this is also going to help cold and hot air pockets to move, to keep the water coming, keep that airflow going. Again, if you need it, your plants probably need it too. So we've all experienced like fires in Eastern Washington, California, and we get our bad weather, bad air notices on the news, like don't go outside, the air's gross, okay? Plants don't like gross air either. Everybody needs fresh air. So that's the basics. What I'm going to do now is go over just some tips. Really help me is soaking. So there's the 3 S's of seed starting. SSS. This is the soaking, scarification, and stratification. This is just an extra tip. You don't have to do this. You'll probably still get pretty decent germination, but if you do these things, it's really going to up your germination rate. So soaking your seed. If the larger the seed is, you soak it overnight, pour the water off the next day and sow. I get way better success, especially with my peas. It's night and day when you soak them before you sow them. So the next one's scarification. These are a lot of like trees and perennials, but some annuals like nasturtiums, right? They have like armor on their seed coat. It's like so hard. And they do that so that they can get through a harsh winter and then, germinate in the spring. But I want them to germinate when I want them to. So I have actually 7 nail clippers that I use specifically just for seeds. And you're just going to put a little nick in that outer seed coat. You don't want to mess with the embryo of the seed. You don't want to get too deep. But on the outside, you're just going to make a little nick so that water can get in there and start the germination process. It helps a ton. I thought I was doing something wrong because I could not get nasturtiums to grow forever. But that really upped my game with those. So stratification is the last one. And what this does is it's mimicking winter. Certain plants need a certain amount of chilling hours before they're going to germinate. So this is how I successfully started lavender seed. Took my lavender seed, they're itty bitty. Put lavender seed with sand, got it wet, put it in a paper towel, put it in a Ziploc, left it in my fridge. I forgot about it for 3 months. Later in the late spring, came back and they had actually germinated. So I got tweezers very carefully, sewed them into their own little starter trays, and I got 12 lavender plants from seed. So that is it. That's seed starting. It's not hard. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing it still. It's really easy. It's really fun. But if you just stick to those basics, think if you need it, your plants are going to need it. It's going to just make it a lot easier for you. So those tools of good soil, containers that are at least a couple inches deep. You need to have the right warmth for what you're growing to germinate in, whether it's cool or warm season, and those lights, and then good air and water. So stick to those basics. Seed starting is a breeze. Anybody can do it. So